before I start writing a piece, I like write out the poem by hand. I was sitting outside writing it down and it started to rain. So on the lyrics that I wrote out, there's like rain spots. I'll sit with the poem for a few weeks, just collect ideas like little seeds, and I record them all. Then when it comes time to sit down and do it, I try to get into like a sense of what the piece is supposed to make you feel like first. And then I take all those ideas. Sometimes it's really hard to throw some of them out, but they always come back for other things. So, but yeah, it's mostly just like sitting with the words, sitting with the feeling of it. And so that was why it was so powerful to do it during the summer, because I didn't just sit with the feeling and imagine it. I was like sitting out in the rain, thinking like, what does this make me feel? What do I want people to feel about this? Sometimes when I get stuck, I just go sit by the back door with my feet out in the rain. And it's amazing how many ideas came that way. I had a crazy experience actually during writing this, where I went out to sit in the rain because I was just really stuck. I was like, how do I write this? And I was sitting near the house and I thought, oh, it's probably safe. It was like thundering and lightning. But then there was like a strike of lightning pretty close by, and there was this jolt that went through my whole body. And I immediately just like ran inside. Yeah, I thought about that part when I was like writing the thunder. And I also didn't want it to make the whole piece like this very like cheerful, happy thing the whole time. I wanted to show like all the different moods of the rain, because some rain can like destroy too. Like it's not just this beautiful, nice thing that happens. Also, writing with MIDI is completely different. So I went from like pulling up Sibelius and just writing on a blank sheet of paper and having to think about like all of the notes and make sure that everything was like mathematically correct, and moving from that place of like having to know note values and all of this stuff to just what sounds good, like just what sounds good has been amazing. Then I go down to write it down. I'm like, this is complicated. Like,
Yeah.
it's taken me a lot longer to think of this in terms of sheet music first. So I've been shifting from thinking in terms of sheet music to MIDI, and that has changed a lot of things. I mean, the whole beginning of the piece, I don't really remember how it happened because I was just like, I want it to sound like it's starting to rain, but I was like, how do I write this up? This is something I would never have just sat down in Sibelius and like tried to write, because it really was just what it sounded like. And it took me like 3 days to figure out how I should best like write it down. When it's raining and you're seeing like sheets of rain coming down and they're sort of all kind of like undulating.
Yeah.
I had one of the seeds was like, I want the harmonic sort of feeling to just keep going up and down all together, because I had just seen Beethoven's Pastoral and the Ninth Symphony at the Kennedy Center just recently, and there's the parts, the rainstorm parts. He uses the strings to like depict the sheets of rain, and it was just so evocative that I was like, I have to do something similar. And I figured by taking everyone down and up like half steps in there, then maybe it would sort of evoke that feeling. The only time where the movement of it stops is right when it says, all can hear, but only the sensitive understand. Yeah. At first I was like, should I stop all of the movement? And I was like, I want to, because that's like,
yes,
it's really to stress that, because that's kind of the core of the whole thing. No, it is actually pretty heavily abridged, and I actually abridged it more as I wrote it, because there were a couple of parts where the words just, there were too many words to fit in. And I was like, the music in this part is really important, so I have to take That's one of the hardest parts about writing, is like you come up with this beautiful idea and it just doesn't fit in with the piece. And so like sometimes you can find a way to like put it in and it actually is like, okay, no, it really does fit. It was just hard to fit it in. But I've come to the point where I can understand the feeling of like, no, this is not actually going to enhance the piece. So sometimes it's like cutting off your arm because it's like something you worked on for a long time. But I've learned to not throw it away, to set it aside, because sometimes those become other things that are really great.